Tonight, the horrific crash that has a Calgary family mourning.
Just shock. Just unbelievable shock. Like, what the hell just happened?
How the search for a robbery suspect on the run ended with the death of a child.
The House has lost confidence.
Counting down to a vote of non-confidence.
This is an effort to bring this decision once and for all into the hands of the Canadian people.
The Conservatives make a New Year's resolution to bring down the Liberals. Accusations from India that Canadian colleges are connected to human smuggling. Plus, feeling the heat.
We do have a detection of beacon tone 1.
A solar probe survives a close encounter, what the mission could reveal. And a carb-filled controversy.
We didn't know it would create such a commotion.
What makes a bagel a bagel?
All right, this is not a bagel.
Montrealers weigh in.
Yeah, you can see the difference.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. A Calgary family has lost a child. The 9-year-old girl died in a multi-car crash on Boxing Day. The chain reaction began when a man driving a stolen van and fleeing police raced through a red light. CTV's Kathy Lee reports.
Devastation for a Calgary family on what should have been a joyous outing on Boxing Day. Twisted metal and shattered glass scattered across a busy intersection, the aftermath of a 5-car pileup.
It came flying through, hit her, and then that little gray car come flying into us and hit us. Just shock. Just unbelievable shock. Like, what the hell just happened?
Police say 4 people were injured, 3 from one family. Amanda Reitmeyer and her 2 girls, 9-year-old Victoria and 12-year-old Madison. Victoria did not survive.
We're a small family at our company. Her daughters were in here very often, so everyone here knows them. They're going through some unimaginable trauma right now. The loss of a 9-year-old is unspeakable.
Police have arrested 30-year-old Dwayne Napus, who is now facing a number of charges.
Prior to the crash, police say Napus allegedly robbed a pharmacy and believe he assaulted a pharmacist and left in a stolen van.
The ordeal leaving some in the area shaken.
I was thinking about my safety. Like, I was totally alone and I'm a girl. I was thinking, what if he came inside and he could hurt me as well.
Officers tried to get the suspect at a traffic stop, but couldn't.
No pursuit was initiated, and rather we continued to follow that stolen vehicle with the helicopter.
Investigators say the driver sped through the streets, at one point clocked at 180 kilometers per hour before running a red light and crashing into the other vehicles.
They pulled him out of the van. There was about 5 or 6 cops all over the guy.
As police continue their investigation, this family will now face the impossible task of navigating forward after an unimaginable loss. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Edmonton.
Even before the House of Commons returns in January, one MP plans to introduce a new non-confidence motion. The Conservatives have been pushing to topple the Liberal minority for months. CTV's Jeremy Sharon tonight with how soon it could happen and what it would take.
The House has lost confidence.
When MPs return to the House of Commons a month from now, Conservatives are hoping they'll face a confidence vote in short order.
This is an effort to bring this decision once and for all into the hands of the Canadian people by letting them have their say in a carbon tax election. We don't want Justin Trudeau to delay this with political maneuvering aimed at protecting his own political career.
In a letter today from the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, Conservative MP Jonathan Williamson announced the committee will meet January 7th to vote on a motion of non-confidence in the Liberal government, the first step in a procedural tool the official opposition is using to try and topple the government.
To force him to either face a confidence vote or go to the Governor-General and dissolve the House of Commons.
If the motion passes in committee, the Conservatives will push it to the House, where they believe it could be voted on as early as January 30th.
Might there be things that the Liberals try to do to push the vote, whatever? Maybe, but even at this point, it's not clear that the Prime Minister has the confidence of his own party. So I'm not sure where the legitimacy would come from for the Liberals to try to drag this out.
But the Conservatives will need the support of other opposition parties to push this motion through. In the fall, 3 Conservative non-confidence motions failed. But after Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's surprise resignation from Cabinet, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh signaled last week he'd be ready to bring down the government in the new year.
If he's actually serious about putting Canadians' needs first, he will support this at committee and support it coming to a vote the first week we get back in January.
The House of Commons is set to return on January 27th. In the meantime, this latest move by the Conservatives leaves 2 big questions on the table. Will Jagmeet Singh follow through on his word? And will the Prime Minister try and prorogue government to avoid facing a non-confidence vote? Morella?
CTV's Jeremy Charon in Ottawa. Political uncertainty makes it more difficult to present a united front to Donald Trump. So that's what Canada's foreign and finance ministers did today at Mar-a-Lago. Experts say it might not be enough.
This is not an issue about tariffs or even a trade imbalance. This is about Donald Trump wanting to exert his authority and exert his power.
The meeting with Team Trump is being described as positive and productive, but there was no commitment to walk back the threat of a 25% tariff on Canadian exports to the U.S. As the U.S. battles its highest level of whoop and cough in a decade, here in Canada, the infection is also on the rise. Cases are going up in Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, PEI, and Newfoundland and Labrador. And other outbreaks have been noted in Alberta, BC, and Nunavut. More than 19,000 cases of whooping cough have been reported in this country this year. That's not the only illness raising alarm bells across the country. As CTV's Maria Saru shows us, there is a wider wave of viruses causing concern.
While avian flu poses a low risk to humans right now, experts are concerned that could change. The virus has started to infect new species, jumping from birds to mammals, and in very rare cases, humans, says Dr. Christopher Labos.
It is very possible it could become better at infecting humans and spreading from humans to humans. And then if that happens, we could have a different strain of influenza that could then spread across the world and cause a very bad flu season like we saw in 2009.
In November, Canada's first human case was confirmed in BC. A teenager who was in critical condition. That's the last update from public health officials. The same month in Quebec, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency detected 2 cases of avian influenza in farm animals. Labos adds, people who regularly work with birds can protect themselves by using proper personal protective equipment, gloves, masks, and goggles. But it's not the only disease worrying experts.
There is a very real danger for diseases that had effectively disappeared from Canada coming back, like measles, like polio, like whooping cough. And that is directly tied to the fact that we are seeing flagging vaccination rates.
There have been 170 confirmed cases of measles this year, according to Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Teresa Tam. A child under 5 in Ontario died of the disease this year. They're especially vulnerable, says Dr. Jesse Pappenberg.
Most children will just develop a fever and a rash and conjunctivitis, cough, runny nose. Up to 1 in 1,000 can develop complications that include an infection of the brain and the complications from that.
He adds Quebec is in the middle of its RSV season and says the virus is the #1 cause of hospitalizations in children. As for COVID-19, it's still circulating. The most recent provincial data for mid-December shows 1,287 cases and 19 new deaths. Both doctors say it's important not to get complacent and to stay updated on your vaccines to protect yourself and loved ones with a long winter ahead. Maria Saru, CTV News.
There are some serious accusations coming from India tonight. That country claims some Canadian colleges have links to a human smuggling operation. India alleges the schools accept foreign students who aren't actually coming here to study, but are using Canada as a springboard into the U.S. CTV's Kamal Karamali breaks it down.
The investigation by Indian law enforcement agencies alleges there are two so-called entities in India with a network of thousands of agents sending students abroad. It claims one of those entities referred 25,000 potential students and another over 10,000 to colleges outside of India every year, including in Canada, where India alleges more than 100 colleges have entered into agreements with each entity. In the release, it did not name those schools, but said after the students arrive, they head to America, claiming once the individuals or students reach Canada, instead of joining the college, they illegally crossed the U.S.-Canada border and never joined colleges in Canada.
This is extremely unprecedented.
This immigration lawyer says he was approached by a similar entity in India to help bring students to Canada.
I did not feel comfortable with this kind of situation because my name would be connected to some kind of entity which I had no real substantive knowledge about.
Indian officials say the investigation was launched in response to the family of 4 that died in freezing temperatures nearly 3 years ago while trying to cross into the U.S. through the Manitoba border. They say the same man alleged to have arranged this family's travel from India also helped other Indians get admissions to Canadian colleges. Some questioning the timing of this release, with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump putting an increased focus on border security, threatening to slap tariffs on Canada if the government doesn't ramp up efforts against illegal migration.
It seems to me that India is just weighing in, trying to shift the balance in one side or the other, and I think it's worth asking who will benefit.
Last year, just under 20,000 people were arrested crossing illegally from Canada into the U.S., but it's unclear how many of those came to Canada as students, with critics saying Ottawa needs to do a better job of keeping track of those numbers. Marilla.
All right, thanks, Kamal. 29 people survived that passenger jet crash in Kazakhstan, and they are recounting what happened in the minutes before they hit the ground. This woman says, "We felt 2 explosions. The plane was supposed to land, but it didn't. Something exploded inside twice." The jet was flying near Grozny in Russia at the time. Most experts say it looks like it veered off course after being hit by missile fragments and not a flock of birds, as Moscow has claimed. It's possible Russia may have mistaken the plane for a Ukrainian attack drone. 38 people died. Political chaos reigns in South Korea, where the National Assembly has voted to impeach its acting president only 2 weeks after impeaching its president. Opposition MPs accuse the acting president of failing to move forward with the president's impeachment process. The finance minister has now stepped in to lead the country. It was a close call for 2 brothers in Utah who escaped from an avalanche.
You need to have all the right safety or rescue equipment, a transceiver, a probe, and a shovel.
The brothers Braden and Hunter were on snowmobiles when an avalanche came barreling towards them. Braden made it out, but Hunter got trapped under 2 feet of snow. Thankfully, his brother was able to find him using a tracking device. Experts urge winter sports enthusiasts to always be prepared. Coming up, unlocking the secrets of the sun.
We're rewriting the textbooks on how the sun works.
Solar rendezvous making history. Plus, Canada's golden summer, a look back at the 2024 Olympics. '24 was a golden summer for Canada's Olympians. In the end, athletes brought home a record number of medals from Paris, but the Games began with a scandal. CTV's Andrew Johnson has more.
Security was tight in the City of Light, the largest peacetime deployment in French history, to keep Paris safe and allow the athletes to shine inside spectacular venues next to some of the world's most iconic sites. But for Canada, it was scandal out of the starting gate.
We were sitting in a circle in the hotel crying our eyes out.
A coach for the defending Olympic champion women's soccer team was caught using a drone to spy on opponents during a training session. 3 staff were sent home, FIFA issued a fine, and the team handed a devastating point deduction. The women on the field overcame it, a gutsy effort that ended in penalty kicks in the quarterfinal.
Under the circumstance, you really can't be anything but proud.
From the field to the track, and another comeback story. After qualifying with the slowest time, the men's 4x100-meter relay team, anchored by Andre DeGrasse, stunned the field, capturing shocking gold for the first time in nearly 30 years.
Dream come true, man. It's a complete story. So, I mean, definitely it's something that we'll remember for the rest of our lives.
Canada's most dominant performance in Paris came in the pool. It was the summer of Summer, who has now been named the country's top athlete of 2024.
I'm very ecstatic with my results here.
Toronto's Summer McIntosh brought home 4 medals, including 3 gold. She's the first Canadian to ever accomplish that in 1 Games.
I don't think it's fully sunk in yet. I wasn't expecting it necessarily, but I mean, it means the world to see everyone's support.
Josh Liendo also made history, swimming to silver, the first Black Canadian to win an Olympic medal in the sport. That brings us to historic performances in hammer throw from 2 British Columbians. Ethan Katzberg, the pride of Nanaimo, first turned heads with his mustache, then with a monstrous throw to become Canada's first Olympic gold medalist in any throwing event in 120 years.
I had a good idea that it was a good throw.
He would return home to a hero's welcome.
It's great to be back and just enjoy these moments.
Just days after Katzberg's achievement, Richmond's Cameron Rogers did it again, her toss leading Canada to double hammer throw gold. Canadians broke through in several other events for the first time. Krista Deguchi won the country's first ever gold medal in judo, a triumphant return after she was cut from the Tokyo Olympics. Alicia Newman became the first Canadian woman to win a medal in pole vault. Canada's first ever fencing medal, a bronze, captured by Eleanor Harvey.
I know, I have so much more inside of me. I have so much more, fire.
Mississauga's Katie Vincent made Canadian history in the 200-meter canoe sprint. It came down to a photo finish. Vincent's time good for a world record, and Canada's first ever gold in a women's kayak or canoe event. Finally, Phil Wizard. Canada's final medal captured by the Vancouver breakdancer to become the first ever Olympic champion in the competition.
I'm still processing everything. I've only been home for a few days, so I don't really know what's going on, so I'm just taking it as I go.
By the time the Games came to a close, Canadians made the podium in Paris 27 times.
I feel immense pride in all of our nation's athletes who performed so well.
Athletes who set a new Summer Olympic bar to beat next time in Los Angeles 2028. Andrew Johnson, CTV News.
Still ahead. Here comes the sun. What scientists can learn from a NASA solar probe. A NASA probe has survived a close encounter with the sun. The Parker craft launched in 2018 and got closer to the scorching star than any other craft ever has. CTV's Garrett Berry has more.
It's flown faster than any other man-made object and closer to the sun than ever before.
We do have a detection of beacon tone 1.
NASA has now confirmed that the ambitious Parker probe survived a Christmas Eve journey into the heat of the sun.
Fantastic news.
It reached 6.1 million kilometers above the sun's plasma surface, awfully close for space travel. Speeding at almost 700,000 kilometers an hour, likely it felt the heat of almost 1,000 degrees Celsius. A close encounter that scientists hope will reveal a little bit more about the secrets of the sun.
This mission was theorized in the 50s, right? Really an amazing achievement to be here today, to know that we created the technologies that got us there.
There's much to learn about the sun, like why the sun's corona, its outer layer, is so incredibly hot, and how particles get sped up so fast.
We're rewriting the textbooks on how the sun works with this data and with the information that we get from this. So really exciting. It is really, really exciting. And there's much, much more to come for Parker, too.
The sun has been particularly active this year, near what's called a solar maximum, so it's been emitting more solar flares and more coronal mass ejections, more bursts of plasma into space. That's part of what's been behind all those beautiful displays of northern lights, but it's also a challenge for telecommunications and even power generation.
I keep pointing back to the 1989 Quebec power grid failure, which arose purely because of the coronal mass ejection overwhelming the Quebec power grid. We have the ability these days to look at the sun and get early warnings, but not much in the way of an early warning.
Developing an early warning system, astronomer Paul Delaney says, would be a big benefit to protect technologies here on Earth.
So maybe the Parker probe recorded some great data that can help start that process, but it's going to take another few days before we find out exactly what the probe caught. Data won't start transmitting until January 1st. Morella.
Garrett Berry, thank you. Straight ahead, a culinary conundrum.
That's not a bagel. No, it's a bun, right?
The piece of dough dividing opinions in Montreal. Montreal boasts the best bagels in the world, so when a famous bagel maker broke with tradition, it sent some bagel lovers around the bend. CTV Geneviève Beauchemin reports.
A Montreal institution for nearly 7 decades, Saint-Viateur Bagel has never been embroiled in such a controversy.
We didn't know it would create such a commotion.
At the center of it all, this bagel without a hole.
No, that's not a bagel. No, it's a bun, right? It's not a bagel. I will not go for it.
This is a first for this renowned house of bagels. Never before has the hole needed to be filled.
It's part of a promotion by a cream cheese company that wanted something with more, well, real estate for its creamy topping. For a sandwich, like you're saying, you know, you've got.
Yeah, it
you
could
can
be like, can you imagine
and...
like cream cheese and onion and thick slabs of salmon on this? How amazing that would be.
You're making me hungry.
I think this is a new trend.
But in a city where bagels are sacred, these ones are now dubbed unholy bagels. We took them to an expert, Rabbi Pupko.
All right, this is not a bagel.
Theories abound as to why there is a hole. Some say it dates back to the 13th century to distinguish this Jewish bread from other bread.
By the way, the word bagel means bracelet. It comes from the German word bracelet. So by definition, it is round with a hole.
Heresy or not, even those who find this distasteful promise not to take it too far.
No, I'm not going to cause any trouble.
You're not going to protest?
I'm just not, no protest. I'm just not going to buy them.
But others are.
Yeah, so we've just sold out of those for now.
The unholy bagels are selling like hotcakes.
You're the connoisseur here?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Listen, this is my bagel. This is it. I found this too doughy for me.
Perhaps an added argument for those who say no bagel worth its salt would find itself in this shape.
Yeah, you can see the difference.
Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Tastes good either way. That's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time with us. For all of us here at CTV National News, good night. I'll see you tomorrow.